Hello and welcome to another edition of A Lot of Help. That's with two T's with James Lott Jr. I'm here on JLJ Media. I am the JLJ of JLJ Media. Say that 5 times fast, but I'm here. And this show is about actually helping people. We talk about all kinds of health and wealth, whether it is health and whether it's fitness, physical, mental, or financial. Very important, folks. They all lead to us living long, healthy, happy lives, at least on some level. And I'm a person who actually, he's been on one of my other shows years ago for another thing. He's done other things. He's done multi-hyphen. He's done other things, like comedian and host and stuff. And we're ex-afterbuzzers. We know each other from there. But he's actually moved himself into the financial advisory world. And I know a little bit about that world myself, one of my former jobs I've done. We're going to talk to him about what he is doing, what's out there for people, kind of, and get to know him a little bit. Humza Shah Khan. Hi, Humza.
Hey James, how you doing? Hey JLJ of JLJ. Nice to see you again, man.
You know you're one of my favorite people, so it's very happy. I'm very happy to see you.
Yes, I'm happy to reconnect, but I'm more happy we reconnected in this avenue right here through podcasting, because that's just how we met. That's how we know each other, and it's great to see you again.
Yeah, same here. And also, I do believe in trying to help other people. I know you do too. If you follow him online, he is always posting positive. So you've always been that way. Post positive things and some funny stuff too, but a lot of positive stuff. Which I told you before, I admire you for that. I think it's just like, why not, right? To do that. But now you're moving into this world. Not moving. You're in the world of finance, and you're again bringing positivity to it. So, kind of tell folks how you kind of got into this world and what are you doing in general right now. Let's start there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, a little backstory. So I'm 36, and the last 20 years I've been working in sales, tech sales to be exact. I work for some pretty big startups, Realtor.com, WebMD, Uber Tech, you've heard of them. And I made a lot of really good money. The downside is I didn't keep a lot of money, right? So I'm to this point where I'm 36 years old. I just bought a house, and I'm looking at myself like, where did my time go? Where did my resources go? Like, what did I do with all this stuff? And then I started realizing, being an immigrant to this country, first generation, we don't have anyone to kind of guide us into finances, how to structure finances, how to save, what to put aside, what retirement is. In fact, my parents think that their retirement plan is us, their kids. So I started looking into finance at that point, right? I'm just like, I need to educate myself. When I started educating myself, I realized I'm not so much of an immigrant because 66% of Americans actually are all in the same boat. So it's not a cultural thing. It's not a immigrant thing. It's a really everybody thing, right? And the more I started looking into it for myself, the more I got excited about it. And I just kind of naturally found myself preaching to a lot of my friends about different strategies, different ways to kind of save and make sure they're set properly, which then led me to say, why don't I just get licensed and do this? So here I am now. I think I started learning into this about 6 months ago, and I came up with my own little company, my own practice. And now I'm physically taking on clients both in California and Florida.
Okay, I want to talk about your family for a second because that is important. I want to know for you. You have siblings, right? You have siblings, don't you?
Right. There's 5 of us total.
And so now, are your siblings? How are you guys? Are you guys all very different, or when it comes to finances, are you similar, or how do you guys all turn out?
So we're all very, very similar when it came to finances, and then we all kind of had that aha moment, right? Just to speak on my siblings real quick, they're all very smart individuals. So oldest sister, she's a doctor. Middle sister, she's a lawyer. Brother is in marketing, and then the youngest sister is actually doing sales for a startup. She kind of followed in my footsteps. Oh, wow. And all of them are kind of similar. They and we don't, not to knock my dad, but we kind of started looking back, and we said to ourselves like, dad didn't do that right. He didn't pay those bills correctly. He didn't put money aside the right way. He chose to spend on this versus this. And the more we started looking into it, now we're all kind of on the same page. Like, we really got to make sure we do it different, right? So we want to make sure that our future generations, are my nieces, my nephews, things like that. We're not relying on them to take care of us when we get older, right? And we want to teach those habits now going down the line. So siblings wise, they're very similar in thought as far as how we used to do our spending. And now we're all kind of switching at this, like one brain, moving towards the financial literacy type of world.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, so were your parents very frugal growing up? Where they just spend thrift, they just spending stuff? How were they? How were you? Because like sometimes we do the opposite of our parents. Sometimes we follow our parents' footsteps. We just do.
For a lack of a better term, they're very bipolar with their money. Okay. So an example, right? I'll give you an example. we're going to get a car. We can make do with a $30,000 car, but we get a $60,000 car that we can't afford, right? The SUV we needed because there's so many kids, but really we could have done with a minivan. But then on the flip side, we go to a restaurant to eat. Let's get one soda and some cups and split it, right? So it was very you know.
I'm picturing that right now. I was like, okay, kids, here we go.
So we just paid a $980 car note. So this $1.98 Coca-Cola, you're going to share, okay? So it was a lot like that. And then even when we got older, because we got older and we would, as adults, we were all working, but we would all be like, no, I don't want a soda. One person will get it, but like all start sharing. I'm like, what are we doing, guys? What are we? You're a doctor, for God's sakes.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
So yeah, they're very up and down, and they kind of still are. They have the same mentality, but you know, some people are just set in their ways, and I'm here to kind of make sure some things don't go left, and we kind of stay on track, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. So now, explain what a financial advisor is. I remember when I first went. This was like, oh my God, like nearly 25 years ago. And my friend's like, we get you a financial advisor. I'm like, I know what the word advisor means, kind of, but I'm like, I don't really. I'm like, what does that mean? And I was like, I went to Edward Jones. My advisor was Edward Jones. And so, but I was like, okay. I was like, I've known him for years, and we're great. Hi, Dave. Hi, Dave. I was like, hi, Dave. How you doing? Thanks for money. But no, but I think for this show, let's break it down to just the basics. What is a financial advisor?
So the more important thing is, because I want people to meet with financial advisors, but I think it's very important to understand that a financial advisor is not a salesperson. So keep that in mind. If you ever meet with a financial advisor and they're pushing you towards certain products, certain things, and they seem to be talking about just one thing, they're technically a salesperson. They're being commissioned to sell a product. So a financial advisor, to me, should be a lot like a doctor, right? You go to visit them. If you have a checkup. In financial advisor world, it's a financials checkup, and you kind of tell them, like, you know, what's going on with you, if there's anything that's wrong, and they'll remedy it for you. On the flip side, it could also be like a personal trainer. You tell them where you are body goal wise, right? But you tell them where they want to go, and they come up with a plan. So any financial advisor worth anything that's going to be there for you as a financial advisor are strictly there to give you the advice. Some of them on the higher end that do like the bigger book of business, they charge a fee. Some of the newer guys like myself, I don't charge a fee to do advice. What I do is then at that point we come up with a strategy, then we figure out, you know, which direction we're going to go. So my take is it's you know, you come to me, we find out where you are, we call it a GPS, right? Guidance, preparation, and solutions, and we come up with where you're trying to go, and then a good financial advisor will keep up with you. Do a 6 month to an annual checkup. You know, hey James, how's it going? Listen, you told me by this time you were supposed to have 30,000 saved up for that down payment. Where are you? You know, so that's kind of my take on it. So just if anyone goes out there, and I encourage people to see financial advisors, just make sure that they're interested in what you got going on and helping you get to where you want to be.
Well, just because I'm biased, I say you should go see Humza Shah Khan first.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
I'm glad you didn't say Dave. I'm glad you didn't say David.
I say Dave. I love Dave. Dave's my buddy. He's good. Good. You can see him too, kind of, but he's good. But for this, it's all about Humza. You know, Humza. No, and I agree with him, because that was the thing. I mean, I was not sold on anything.
Correct.
That turns me off anyway. First of all, like if I will come, if I see a product, then I will go to you for that product and information. But I'm going for one other reason, and they try to give you another. I mean, it turns me off. So I agree with Humza. I agree with him completely. Yeah, you want somebody just to go, which is there for you, and Dave does call and check up on me, so that does happen. So yes, I like that. Okay, so now we're just I almost kind of want to feel like I'm a customer. I'm coming to you, and you can kind of walk us through what you do, and explain as in you can help guide me. Like, hi, I'm James Lott Jr. and hi, Humza, I'm coming to you.
Beautiful. So I always start with my why, right? The reason I'm doing this is because I want a lot more of us to have access to financial literacy and make sure we're educated. So the first thing I always do is educate. And that to me is my reward is if you just take one thing in, right? If you listen to one thing, I came back, I met with somebody in February, and then I met with her again last week. And she's like, hey, remember when we spoke? And we were just playing video games, we were game nights, right? We were just talking. And she said, I took one bit of advice from you. So and she actually applied it. And I was very like, Okay, so I must have said something that caught on to her. So it's always education first. So we talk about where you're at. I do a free budget sheet for everybody, a free financial snapshot. So it's very simple. We can meet via Zoom if you're in California or in person. I don't mind either way. And we go over your finances, all your debt, all your goals, where you want to be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is that you want to do. We could do little bits at a time. We could do a whole thing if you want to. It's entirely up to you. From there, what I do is I actually take the information I got. Since I'm fairly new to this, I come up with a strategy, but I take it back to my team. And my team has over 100 years of experience, and my mentor is over 20 years of experience on his own. Actually, top 1% of financial advisors out there, and they poke holes in my strategy, if you will, right? They like to look into it. A lot of times they say, "Man, that's spot on, good for you," or "I would do this, I would do that. Let me talk to the client." And these guys are the ones that charge the higher fees, but I bring this to you as my client, so that way we kind of get a lot of these things done for free. And then lastly, what I'll do is I'll come up with a solution, right? A strategy of what we're going to do. And just like everybody, I like to start small. So let's start with the protection aspect of it, right? Are you covered for stuff? Are you covered for a rainy day? Do you have an emergency fund set up? What happens if you pass away? What happens if you become disabled? Things like that. Then after we set that up, about 6 months later, I'll check in to see how things are going. And we start the fun spot, the accumulation phase, if you will, right? The stocks, the bonds, the mutual funds. Do you want to talk about Bitcoin? How's Bitcoin doing? Do you want to invest in real estate? Treasuries, stock, government bonds, municipal bonds. There's a lot of different things you could do with your money. Yeah. And then the very last aspect, once we get a cool little flow going and you start seeing like the next year, your dividends start rolling in, little checks coming in the mail for little profits that you're making here and there. Then I try to cap it off with preservation is what I call it, which is your retirement, right? Making sure your retirements are set. My mentor says a great thing. He says, it's not about the money you make, it's about the money you keep. So we know taxes are at all-time low, and then we try to figure out a tax strategy. So when you do retire, the government doesn't take most of that money. It comes to you tax-free or very minimal tax, right? How do we get that set up? And then we kind of take it from there. So, and then what happens is a trickle-down effect. Hopefully you have kids, then we start talking about them and their college funds. And I even meet with independent kids by themselves and just say, hey, what are you doing? How are you getting your allowance? And just kind of help their kids get in that mindset of, let me put this much money aside, save up. Maybe they want a PS5, who knows, whatever the case is.
What are some of the things that people in their 20s, well, I would say early 30s, because some people just say early, people get out of college, they're in college, out of college. Also, so I'll go to the early 30s. So say 20s, 30s, what are some things you should know?
Well, the very first thing you should know is a part of your paycheck should always be saved at the end of the day, no matter what. So what a lot of people do is they live paycheck to paycheck, right? Yep. I would say, and I like to say, think of it as a bill. You pay for Netflix, you pay for all these different things, right? You hopefully pay monthly stocks or subscriptions to JLJ Media. But what I'm saying is you should put it in as a monthly bill of how much you want to put aside. And that, especially the younger people, I think $50, can you do a $50 a month, 100 a month, 200 a month, right? You come up with a number. That's the number one thing. And then two, make sure your retirement funds are you're taking advantage of them, especially if you have a 401k with your work, right? Retirement funds are very important. Sadly, a lot of people during the pandemic had to use the retirement funds, but at least they had it there to use, right?
Yeah.
Retirement funds and a little bit of a savings, emergency savings are the main two things to start with. If you're going to do anything for yourself, do those. It's really easy to do.
Yeah, that's advice that my granny used to always say all the time. She's like, no, you work very hard, it's very paycheck, but like she said, 10% aside and spend 10% on yourself. She always advocated that you worked very hard and you have to live life a little bit. So it's you got to pay your bills, clearly. Mm-hmm. But if you work hard enough, you can have at least a little something for yourself, like whether it's a dinner for yourself or a bracelet or whatever. But she always said, but back for her, like it was years ago, 10%, we always put it away. So just pretend you don't have it. It's just gone. Don't put it away.
Correct. I love it. And you know what's crazy is a lot of banks now do it to where they can automatically, when you have a paycheck come into the account, take 10% and put it towards your savings if you want to. And then get in the habit of doing a budget. It's once a month. The first of the month, you sit down. I like to do it the last day of the month. So that way the first of the month when rent comes out or mortgage comes out and stuff, it's already there. But a budget sheet, there's free ones online. There's apps now that kind of follow it and do reoccurring stuff. or hit me up and I'll do a budget sheet for you.
I
No
was going to
cost
ask you that because there are people, when you say budget, their eyes glaze over. You know, they do.
Yeah.
Budget. Like, I mean, I was a spreadsheet king back in the day. I could do spreadsheets. Excel was my baby. A lot of folks don't. They hear budget and they go, "What does that mean?" But you're right. There's apps and stuff out there, right? That you
Right. There's a lot of apps out there. The downside for the apps, in my opinion, is that they collect a lot of data. And I'm a privacy person, so I don't want people knowing what my finances are if I'm putting it in there.
Go to
Right?
Humza, folks. Go to Humza.
Excel sheets are probably the best, and there's a lot of them out there. I even have some. I'll email to anyone for free if they want it. You just simply put in your numbers, and it calculates it for you. It's like magic.
Okay, yeah, well, go to Humza, folks. That'll be the whole theme today. Just go to Humza. No, guys, that's a good point. That's a good point. Because some people may ask that question too. How much of my data? Yes, okay, that's up there. Okay, so that's good for so you got all you Gen Z and Zennials and millennials, whatever you guys are. You guys
Everybody.
know I am.
Everybody.
I don't know. I don't get it. This whole mixture in between the millennials. I don't know what's going on. I'm Gen
We're
X.
all people. We're all people.
Right, Robert. We're all poor. Okay. No, here's the thing. So, but no, that's good advice. So, like, so those are things you guys should know about. I agree with that. And I know, and I just want to say, I know it can be hard. You're thinking, but having that extra 10 or 20 bucks really is not going to help you that much. Not really in the long run. It will help you later. Like that's the lesson. It's like this is yeah, I get it, right?
And that's a mindset for a lot of people, right? Even myself, it's like I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Inflation's through the roof. All this stuff is annoying and blah blah blah. And I get that, and that's the whole point of at least doing the budget, so you can see where you potentially can save, right? And it's not about necessarily $100, $200, $1,000. It could be just $5 for that month you put aside, and it is going to accumulate if you put it in the right accounts. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But my youngest client is actually my youngest sister. She's 22. And she started with a budget of $16 a month to put aside. Nothing major. But I wanted her to get in the habit of putting that money aside. That's the reason we're doing this. So what I did for her is anything she puts aside, I just match it for her. You know, it's not a lot, 30 bucks. So $32, but we're doing it. So what she doesn't know, however, is that in 6 months' time, I have a plan to get her a nicer account that's going to end up getting her more interest, and I'm kind of putting more money aside for her because I like the fact that as a 22-year-old, she took the advice and she ran with it. So if anything, budgeting and getting in the habit is probably the smartest thing to do at the beginning.
Yeah, and people, you understand, time goes by fast, and all of a sudden you're like, I have how much?
Yeah.
No, what happened? No, it does. It really does happen. You're like, oh my god, I have that much in there. Okay,
Right.
well,
Yeah, you want to go to the gym and deadlift, 600 pounds, right? You'd go in there and you do a couple of little reps here and there, and you start small. Eventually, it'll snowball, and you'll get addicted to it as well, just like you with the gym.
I'm trying to get addicted to your gym. I'm trying. It's been 6 weeks. I go on the treadmill, do my little thing. I do my little mile a day on the treadmill.
Doesn't matter as long as you're active. That's all that matters, Compound.
Yes, I'm trying to stay young looking. Okay. So what now? For we talk about that age group. Now we got your age group, the mid to late 30s. We'll say to 50, where maybe you might be now in a serious relationship. You might be getting married. You might be single still, but like so you've changed your life now. Now you're like, I'm changing my life. You may be you may be married with kids growing. I mean, now teenagers or moving out. What do you what any advice for that age group?
Yeah. So main thing is a lot of us are, and I'll be completely blunt. I feel like a lot of us got screwed in the way we grew up. Okay. Yes. I think we're right in the cusp of things where we have to pretend like and work like boomers, but then we get to and not complain like the millennials and Gen Zs do, right? So we're right in the middle. It's honestly rough for us, and I'm not saying that because it's me and oh my god, my woes. Just talking about my friends, everyone looking around everybody. It's harder for us to buy homes now. Much harder for us to get property, things like that, savings. It's just difficult. So, personally, what I would say is, it's okay to be a little selfish. That's kind of like my go-to. It's okay to be a little selfish. What do you want? What do you want? And a lot of people say they want to own a home. Do you know that you can own a home in Georgia? Do you know you can own a home in North Carolina? You don't have to live there, right?
Oh, right.
So a good example of that was I was talking to a buddy of mine who had a commercial loan, and he was like, "What can I do with it? X, Y, and Z." And we literally fought right in Atlanta, right outside. That's not advice. I'm just saying a hypothetical. Yeah. But right outside of Atlanta, there was a bit of property, and there was literally like 5 acres for 10 to 15 grand, cheap, right? Just land. So I'm like, okay, so you think, right? I'm in LA, this happened. I'm in Orlando, it's happening now. Everyone's packing in, and now we're starting to go outside. So what happens if you buy this property and eventually someone comes to you, like you were telling me about your house, saying, hey, we want to expand. How much for this property, right? Little do you know that little bit of 10 grand, 15 grand investment could make you 100,000 down the line. So it's not about immediate gratification. We got to remember that, because we all want that instant gratification. I want this house and I want to move in and I want it to have swinging doors and pools and everything. It's more about securing that finance for yourself, have a second kind of revenue that free flows in without you having to put much work into it.
I'm going to give an example too right now, because so I bought several homes in Pittsburgh about 20 years ago, and I because my mother sold my grandmother's house that she bought it for like 11,000 back in 19 whatever 60 whatever. Mother sold it for 300,000 whatever. So and she sold it and it was in Compton, and in Compton they have a certain thing where you don't owe them money, or so it's like the money's all yours, whatever. So anyway, so my mother was like, I would give a little money to teach my kids. So she offered me 20,000. And I put it in an account. I was sitting there, and I had some friends buying property in Pittsburgh. I have family in Pittsburgh. I have family in New York and Ohio. I was like, because in LA, I was like, I'm not gonna buy a house in LA. That's not gonna happen.
Of course not. Bad investment.
Yeah, that was not gonna happen. So I said, because like you said, I started looking around. I go, well, you know what's funny? I don't have to. I said this. I don't have to live there. I could fix it up and rent it out. You know, get a rental management property company that's there. I mean, I could do. There's all this stuff I was thinking about this. So I went. I bought a house for $20,000.
Nice.
In the north side of Pittsburgh in Troy Hill, my beautiful 3-story, 3-bedroom, A-frame row house, a backyard. I loved it. I had it for years. Back in it was say 2002 or whatever, 2003. Had it for years, whatever. So I decided to finally sell it for my 50th birthday back in 2019. And so I was like, I'm going to sell it.
Right.
Folks, and I don't have a problem saying this, I sold it for over $200,000.
Jeez. So 180K is what you got back on your investment. All because you put it, right.
Yes, I'm just telling you. And actually, so after I set aside the capital gains stuff and all that, I set a chunk of money for myself. And actually, I started buying equipment. I had no idea there was going to be a pandemic. I had no idea. I'm trying to tell you, Humza, it was like a psychic. I was just thinking, well, I was at AfterBuzz TV, and I started doing stuff for myself. I go, well, let me buy a good camera. Let me buy a good camera stand. Let me get an iMac. I always wanted an iMac. So I started picking. I wanted to get some ring lights. So I started buying all this stuff. I didn't spend $180,000 on it, but I spent a chunk of money on it, and now it's paying back to me 3 years later because I was prepared. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, okay, well, I'll just do it from here.
Got it.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where I took a chance to expand my mind. Right. And that's probably part of it too for you, isn't it? Is that you can't think inside a box when it comes to finances that, well, I live here and I just can't, like, well, maybe Mississippi, maybe Kentucky, maybe Connecticut, maybe like something like, right? It's like the kind of thing.
Right. You know, and you said you bought it for 20K, right?
Yes, I did.
Raise your hand if you spent more than 20K on a car, right? That's the thing. And at the end of the day, it's not saying, I'm not saying that, oh, you shouldn't buy a car. What I'm saying is you have the means to do it. And loans are easy to get. Realistically, there's tons out there, specifically if there's going to be a good value. You know, they're handing out loans left and right. Interest is high right now, so I'd wait a little bit for it to come down.
It is.
But at the end of the day, it's just, and it is a feeling that you get, right? It's like, I own this. And it's hard to explain it until you get there, because I never thought about it.
Right.
But when you get there, own it, you're like, dang, I own this thing, you know, crazy. So, but yeah, for my people, my age group, just be a little selfish and do one thing for yourself that you wish your parents would have done for you.
I like that. And then we'll go to now over 50 plus. That's what I am. We're going into our twilight years.
Yes.
So to speak. I lay down a lot. No. So here's the deal. So I take lots of naps. It's great.
Right.
Okay, so what do you say to us now? Because I mean, if we didn't start in our 20s and 30s and 40s, and now we're starting now, what are some of the things we should know? What are some things you would say?
So there's actually a lot of things you can do that are enough for you to be able to have when you retire. And a couple of those things, in my opinion, are you have your retirement funds and all that good stuff. But then you got to think about, okay, you have kids that might take care of you or not, but things happen, things change. Look into long-term care. If there's any long-term care stuff out there, you can pay a small monthly payment now And then when the time comes and you need it, there's somebody there to help you out. They could pay for in-home care. You could pay for hospice care. It just depends on what you need, right? There's also disabilities, so things you can do for disability. So if you get to a point where you can't work and earn an income, you get the stuff from the government, which we know it's not a lot, but then you get the supplemental disability coming in, right? So, and we laid out on a lot. You get older, you start getting aches and pains, so it's harder for you to continue to work at the same rate.
Woo.
So
he's not lying, folks. He is not lying.
No, and the thing is, we produce our biggest people like, what's your biggest asset? Oh, my house, it's you. You are your biggest asset because you make the money. So if your money income potential stops, what do you do? Right. And it's like, we can't, there's not people to rely on. Everyone's hurting right now. It's hard. So in my personal opinion, just think of okay, what do you think you're going to deal with? You're going to deal with having to take care of yourself. What if you get to a point where you can't bathe yourself? And you have a long-term care policy, you can get people to come in and take care of you and help you out. Let's say you don't want people in your house, right? Your daughter wants to take care of you. Well, have her get paid for taking care of you, right? Like, so it's thinking about. So I always say like this: if you were financially set when you retire, what would that look like? And then start building for that dream now. And it's not ever too late. That's the crazy part. There's a lot of solutions out there because companies know that they need to target everybody in order to make money. If everything just was, you have to save in your 20s, if you get to your 40s, you're done, then companies wouldn't be around. We have to, so there's a lot of different strategies, if you will, that you can put together. Certain things like life insurance. Did you know that some life insurance policies will give you your death benefit if you get disabled up to 90%? So like you have a $500,000 policy, you get disabled, you can't work anymore. They're like, okay, here's $400,000, $450. That's terrible math, but you know what I'm saying. Yes. So there's a lot of strategies out there you can do that people aren't aware of until you look into it. It's not as cut and dry as you think it is.
I'm glad you said that. And also just on a side note, the thing you talked about, and depending on where you live in the country, there's all kinds of programs, especially for first-time home buyers. I mean, there was one that I have some friends in Tampa actually talking about that. Actually, are they saying that there's this one program where actually you could count as a first-time home buyer if you haven't bought a house like 3 years, like that. It was like that. It was like something like that. So I'm just saying, look out there. There's just stuff out there. You have to do your research.
Right.
You kind of have to have the patience and go, if you really want this, because he said it, you're the biggest investment. I agree with that. And you have to kind of do your research or let the advisor do research or whatever. It's like you have to invest in the time to set this stuff up and find. Right. You have to. It doesn't just roll over and that's it. And I third thing you said too, you may not see it today, you may not see it tomorrow, you may not see it in 6 months, but at some point you're going to see it. Right. God willing, you will see it. For me, I'm seeing some of this stuff come to fruition through my parents and stuff because they set things up 30, 40 years ago and took a chance and said, I should do this now. And so I'm seeing healthcare, everything. I'm seeing all of it. And
you're seeing it play out.
Right. But you're right.
And then the thing is, I'm on the opposite spectrum. My parents did not do that for themselves. So now for myself, it's not, and I love my parents. So no matter what, they're going to be taken care of. And I'm very, very happy that I have the means to do so. But it's like, there's a lot of money I could be doing with other things for myself, but I'm having to, do this for them. So it goes both ways. And people don't realize this. I was talking to a buddy of mine in California who wants to buy a house, doesn't have a down payment for the house, but he has a 401k. I'm like, well, breaking it, there's a penalty. Yeah. Unless you're using it as a down payment for a house. Then there's no penalty. So he's like, oh, really? So we're like, start looking at loans and stuff. So, you're 100% right. I mean, you get it. It's just you have to talk to somebody, and most people will talk to you and give you advice and details for free. Then you make the decision on what's best for you. Yeah, you do. But you have to talk. You have to look. You have to research. There's stuff out. What I would say? You know how when sometimes you buy food, but you don't eat it all, and you like really quickly put it in the fridge, and then you get home after a really long day, and you see that food in there, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so happy this is here, and you eat it cold because you're so hungry. Yes. Think of it like that, putting this food aside, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I didn't even think I was going to need this badly, and here it is. I agree with that. Yeah. Well, you're going home going, I think I have that piece of burrito still in there. Right. And why was I thinking about a burrito too? That's exactly. There you go. That's exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Because I've had that before. I'm like,
It's there in the refrigerator. It's gonna be so good when I get
Oh
home.
my
And
goodness.
literally, you just grab it, you start eating it, and you start eating because you drank too much or whatever, and you just eat
Right.
it. Exactly.
Right.
So I do know what that means. Yes, burritos are good. I haven't had a burrito in a while. Maybe that's probably why too. But I like that. I like that. As we wrap up, I can talk to you forever, but this is some great stuff. What are some anything else in general? I think you want people to know, kind of, either about you, your business, the business. Which I
So you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast is about health, wealth, and your mindset, your mental, correct? And everything to me falls into the same category. We try to separate it, we try to make it feel different, but it's all the same category. And that category is loving yourself, right? If you love yourself enough to do this for you, and we all want this, we all, not all, but a lot of people do think like, man, if someone just came and did this for me, or if someone just did this for me, I would. Well, we could be that someone that does it for ourselves. And if you love yourself enough and you put your efforts into getting up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym, just to get out of the way, so things like that, making sure you're eating healthy, make sure that burrito does not go in your mouth at the end of the night, and making sure some money is put aside. Realistically, every time you do that, in my opinion, you're telling yourself that you love yourself and you're telling yourself it's worth it. And when you, just like a kid, if you put a lot of love into a child, they'll grow up to be an upstanding, good human being 9 times out of 10. So if you put that love into yourself, once you get to a certain age, you're gonna look back and be like, damn, I did this for myself, and you're gonna be proud of it. So forget finances for everything. I really would like to say just love yourself, and it's gonna all work out if you do that.
I like that. Like I say, you're one of my favorite people, Humza. Thanks for being on the show.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me. It's good seeing you again.
Tell people where they can find you if they want financial advice.
Yeah, so you could check out my Instagram. So there's Humza_mania, HUMZA_mania. I also am going to throw my business number out there. So if anyone wants to contact me, feel free to shoot me a text. Just say, hey, heard you on JLJ Media. So number is 310-279-8238.
I'll put that in the description below, folks, so you can actually text him or call him anytime. Remember, he's in Florida, so right now, so it's wherever you are, depending on think of time zones, I guess.
Yeah, just hit me up. I'll respond when I respond.
Call. I'm sorry, he's like, call anytime. Call
me now for a free financial reading. That
was good, like that. I did some I love that. It's so funny. I'm James Lott. You can follow me. I'm a certified life coach in 5 areas. A lot of help. That's 2ts.com. Go there. I actually have a coaching client later today. I'm here to talk to you about life, media, whatever it is. I'm here to get you started, whatever you need also. So Humza and I are here to help you all. That's what we're here to help. Because I feel like we're part of the same village, everyone. And the village looks out for itself. And we lift up each other, we look out for each other, and we help each other. And that's something that I've been saying for the last 8 years, 9 years I've been doing this. And Humza falls into that category, of course, too. Thanks for watching and or listening. If you're a podcast listener, hello, podcast listener. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.